I read that in Britain or the UK or Britain that they are teaming up with Bill Gates from Microsoft Computers to create a vaccine against the virus that they created, as they advise the world how to deal with the virus that they created. All the people who were responsible for this are still in charge and still have their jobs for some strange reason. And anyways, so the Mothers Across America, an organization, I guess, that watches things like this, got to thinking that, is it possible that they're using genetically modified stuff in our medications, considering the person behind genetically modifying stuff is suddenly involved in our medicine? So they had some vaccines tested to see if glyphosate was in the vaccines. And of course, there was glyphosate in the vaccines along with various other toxins. And I guess it's beyond what's considered the safe limit, which really is no safe limit. And when they grow crops, they can't wash that stuff off. It doesn't burn off. It sticks to the plants. And the genetically modified food is made to withstand the damaging effects of the toxic chemicals that they're spraying the plants with. And then they give it to us. So I guess the glyphosate, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I guess they break the blood-brain barrier and create a channel for the other toxins in the vaccines to be carried to the brain, which could be why all the mental disorders in children suddenly in the last 30, 40 years or whatever. So I don't know, I just thought that was an interesting factor to consider. Is anybody making sure that these vaccines are proven to be safe before they use them on the population? They looked into FOIA requests to see if anybody was doing research on the effects of the glyphosates. And some research had been done, and it was found to cause serious damage to physically and mentally to the rats that they were experimenting on. And so then they quit doing the research and just quit reporting the facts and quit telling anybody that they were going to be damaged by this, because the same person who pushes the chemical is also the same person who pushes our fake food on us and is now in our medicine. So that's just an interesting factor you might want to consider before you let anybody inject you with this vaccine for this virus that is not naturally occurring in the first place. Why are we allowing the people who are responsible for this to be creating drugs to help us deal with this? That's literally giving them what they wanted. You need a market, as they have said themselves, to sell the drugs to, so they're not going to go out of their way to give you a cure. They need to sell you their drugs. And so they'll create a market for the drug. It's just another problem I'm seeing here with this whole virus and vaccine push. Oh, and then that's what it was. In Britain, they're working with 15 other countries and Bill Gates to create a COVID pass where you can't get a passport or anything until you prove that you've been vaccinated. So they're trying to force vaccinate us. Even if the president currently doesn't allow it, is anybody making sure there's protections put in place to prevent them from being allowed to force their will on us that way? That should be up to us, not them. And why are a bunch of strangers without medical degrees telling the entire world how to deal with their health problems in the first place? And why are these same people still in their jobs after the problems that they've created? And why are they not being questioned on trial? And why isn't anybody who can be trusted put in place to look at their research and look at the work they've done so far to see if the vaccine is even real, the virus, and how damaging is the vaccine? Because so far I heard the first round was extremely damaging to certain people and caused permanent damage in someone. And then I've also heard that they never actually identified a virus. They're just identifying material like mucus and stuff like that, and genetic material to identify symptoms of the virus. Doctors are also saying that they're being told to label anything that resembles the COVID virus as a COVID death because they're getting paid for each death. And then there are fraudulent tests that have been going around constantly, and yet they keep pushing us into tests. So, are they seeding this virus through the test and giving it to us? How do we know that it's safe? How are we supposed to know what they're putting in us? Is there any proof that it's okay and that the tests aren't going to be contaminated? Initially, there were people contaminating the tests on purpose. They were using cheap tests that were inaccurate. They were still getting lots of false positives on these tests, and they're still trying to use them. And now, because they started searching for antibodies rather than a virus, they started looking for antibodies to the virus. Suddenly that's fraudulent too. So, because I suppose if you were to suddenly have antibodies to the virus, you wouldn't need a vaccine. And if it takes too long to create a vaccine before everybody develops antibodies, then nobody would need the vaccine that they invested time and money into. So suddenly the antibody test is also inaccurate, and possibly a lot of fraudulent tests going around, according to the FBI, who has not exactly got a good name these days for being trustworthy. I think we need to really raise a lot of questions, and we need to put researchers on here who are claiming that the virus isn't real, that their own research has not shown anything serious, at least not on the level that they're trying to push it as. A whole lot of doctors, thousands, have come out and said they're not seeing the things that they're supposed to be supposedly seeing in their clinics. They're not seeing it. They're not seeing a bunch of deaths or a flood of patients, and a lot of people are actually too slow to even stay open. They're even laying off nurses and stuff, I guess. So how much of this is real? Excuse me, I farted. Anyways, you might want to, we've got to figure out how to put a stop to the people that are in charge of this right now, and get people on this that we know for sure can be trusted, that are opposed to pushing their will on other people and will give us an honest result, instead of letting the people who are trying to create the drug be in charge of dealing with a need for the drug in the first place. Obviously, I don't know, it just seems so stupid and it makes no sense. Unless, of course, you're trying to force your will on the entire world and create so much division that everybody's afraid to get near each other, which, frankly, is what looks like it's happening. So, I don't know. Hold on, buddy. I'm coming for you, sweetie. Hold on, bud. I'm coming, babe. You cocksucker. Well, I think I'm gonna win this war. What are you eating? Don't eat that stuff, bud. Shit. Oh no, buddy.